Hello students, welcome to all in this virtual classes. This class is meant for the BA second year students. The title of the paper is Literature in English. Students, you know very well in the last video we have seen the very famous poem of S.T. Coleridge, The Rime of the Ancient Mariners. We have focused in the earlier video the in a major synopsis or major theme of the poem, as well as part first. We have illustrated the part first, part second, and the part third. In this video we will give focus, or we will highlight, or we will illustrate on the part fourth and part fifth. The part fourth of the Ancient Mariner, the major theme, he is left alone for 7 days. He blesses the water, snakes, and spell is broken. As the in the part fourth, the ancient mariner drifts on the ocean. The natural world becomes more threatening. His surroundings, the ship, the ocean, and the creatures within it are rotting in the heat and the sun, but he is the one who is rotten on the inside. Meanwhile, the sailors' corpses refuse to rot, and their open eyes curse him continuously, giving the ancient mariner a visible manifestation of the living death that awaits him. He will age, but his body will never rot enough to release his soul. His eye will glitter forever with the horror of damnation. As the ancient mariner floats, he becomes delirious, unable to escape his overwhelming loneliness even by sleeping. I closed my lids and kept them close, and the balls like pulses beat, for the sky and the sea, and the sea and the sky lay like a load on my weary eye. His depravity has even denied him the comfort of prayer. The wedding guest is afraid that he is speaking to a ghost, but the mariner assures him that he did not die. When the wedding guest exclaimed that he fears the ancient mariner because he is unnaturally skinny, so tanned and wrinkled that he resembles the sand and possesses a glittering eye. The ancient mariner assures him that he has not returned from the dead. He is the only sailor who did not die on his ship, but rather drifted in lonely, scorching agony. He is alone on the ship and tries to pray, but he cannot for 7 days. He looks at the dead men staring at him and cannot die. If you see the around him, around the ancient mariner, everywhere there were dead bodies were sprayed, and just he thought that the dead bodies were looking him, were staring at him, at and cannot die, like that are alive. He is the only living company was the plethora of slimy creatures in the ocean. He tried to pray but could produce only a muffled curse for 7 days, and might the ancient mariner remained alone on the ship. The dead sailors, who miraculously did not root, continued to curse him with their open eyes. Just when they were staring at him, that all the dead bodies were staring at the ancient mariner, at that moment he was frightened a lot. When he sees water snakes, he blesses them, and he finds that he can pray. Only the sight of beautiful water snakes floating beside the boat lifted the ancient mariner's spirits. They cheered him so much that he blessed them unawares. Finally, he was able to pray. At that very moment, the albatross fell off his neck and sank heavily into the ocean. The albatross falls from his neck. If you see, finally, at the last, when that water snakes were cheering him, when the water snakes were supporting to the ancient mariner, just you can pray and pray for others, pray for all the dead bodies, pray for others. And when that thoughts were came into the mind of the ancient mariner, yes, that yes, I can pray, at the very moment, at that very moment the albatross fell off his neck and sank heavily into the ocean. If you see the part fifth, in the after praying a lot in the part fifth until the end of the part fifth, it seems as though the ancient mariner is redeemed. Not only is he allowed to sleep, but it finally rains and his thirst is quenched. since physical drought and thirst have represented the ancient mariners' moral depravity. Up until this point, it is implied that the abandonment rain symbolizes his redemption. According to a Christian interpretation, the rain signifies that he is being baptized anew as righteous servants of Christ who respects God's creatures. Even though terrifying things continue to happen all around him, a storm, lightning, thunder, the ancient mariner is awed by them instead of fearful of them. It rains, the ship is moved north, crew rises. After praying, the ancient mariner thanked the Virgin Mary for finally allowing him to sleep. He dreamed that the buckets on the ship were filled with dew and awoke to the sound of the falling rain. He drank and drank after so many days of thirst. He sleeps and then it rains. He drank, and when he slept, at that time it rained, and he drank after so many days of thirst, and became so lightened that he thought he was a ghost. Suddenly he heard a loud of wind far off, and the sky lit up with darting fire flags that could be interpreted as lightning aurora borealis or St. Elom's fire, electricity visible in the atmosphere that sailors consider a sign of bad luck. A roaring wind and storm comes, and the dead crew rises and manage the ship. When there was everywhere lightning, the rain poured from a single cloud, as did an unbroken stream of lightning. The ship began to sail, although there was still no wind. Just then, all the dead men stood up and went about their jobs as a mute, ghostly crew. The spirit from the snow and ice moves them to the equator again, and the ship stands still. The wedding guest exclaims again, I fear thee, ancient mariner. But the ancient mariner quickly assures him that the dead sailors were not evil. At dawn, when they woke up, when all the spirit that from when all the bodies, dead bodies, were stands. At that time, everyone was frightening, but that ancient mariner quickly assures him that the dead sailors were not evil. At dawn, they even gathered around the mast and sang so beautifully that they sounded like an orchestra. When they stopped sinking, the ship's sails sank instead. The ship sailed on miraculously in the absence of wind, moved instead of by the spirit that had followed it from the icy world. Once the ship reached the equator and the sun was directly overhead, it stopped moving and the sails stopped singing. Then it began to rock back and forth uneasily until it suddenly jolted, causing the ancient mariner to faint. He lay for an indeterminate period of time on the ship's deck, during which he heard two voices. The first voice swore on Christ that he was the man who betrayed the albatross that loved him, and that the spirit from the icy world also loved the albatross. Eventually, the mariner reaches home, but the curse remains with him, in that he must wander ever after land to land, seizing upon people, compelling them to hear his tale. The voices confirm that it is indeed a specific spirit punishing, which was punishing to the ancient mariner. Still, when he went at his home, but then also it curse remain in his spirit. The text suggests suggestions of sin, baptism, redemption, and other Christian themes shifts towards a more pagan understanding of the story moral incarnates. A spirit that inhabits the icy world of the rhyme loved the albatross. Perhaps it is as a pet and is making the ancient mariner pay for murdering it. In this image, we will see the crewmates drop down dead. All the except the ancient mariner, all the crewmates were dead. Means around the ancient mariner, everywhere the dead bodies were sprayed, and that dead bodies were staring at only the ancient mariner. And if you see the ship moving the north, here is one image. In this way, students, if you see the this very famous ballad of the ancient mariners, Where Coleridge's Ancient Mariner. In the 1817 version of the poem, we are told that the two voices that the Ancient Mariner hears are spirits. Perhaps they are kin to the spirit that is punishing the Ancient Mariner, or are even taking part in his punishment. It is also possible, however, that they, like all of the supernatural elements of the Ancient Mariner story, are merely figments of his imagination. That Coleridge leaves their identity somewhat open ended harkens back to Burns' musings on invisible natures. Humans cannot classify spirits and therefore cannot really know them. Likewise, the ancient mariner and the reader cannot define what kind of spirits are speaking, or if they are indeed spirits at all. Burnet's statements are applicable to all the humans. Furthermore, the reader is as a subject to Coleridge's whims as is the protagonist, and therefore cannot know any more than him. As humans, and therefore sinners, we can all identify with the ancient mariner and are thus equally implicated in his crime. So, thank you, students. I hope you have understood this video. If you are not able to understand, you can review the same video often. Thank you and see you in the next video. Thank you to all.